money 100, 50, 0. Did I have that cubes worth anything? I don't think so. Let's see. Stats. No, it's nothing. I'm going to have it worth 50. So we'll be able to spawn one more. I want the money's pivot to be, I have a pivot. I can. There we go. Now it won't be middle centered. There we go. All right. Now we have 0 money. As soon as we kill this guy, we should get 50. 50. Exactly what we want to see. I need to VSync or something because, oh, no, I can use that. All right. We got that working. Now we can spawn towers. We can't pick them, and we're going to do that in a second, but first we want to create a couple, create the AI that spawns multiple enemies. So the most simple form of that would be to add a script to the game logic setup that is just a wave manager. Now these aren't going to really be waves, it's going to be kind of a constant stream of enemies coming in. But I guess you'd still term them waves, because later on they become waves. So do this, fairly simple. We will, instead of getting a wave number, we'll keep a number. We'll just keep a number to show how many enemies have been spawned. So we'll have a public integer of out and a public game object array of enemies. So these are all the enemies that can be spawned. And then we will also have a cooldown and an internal CD. Just like before. We'll have CD equals cooldown times 2. So you get a twice as long before the very first enemy spawns. You can kind of get your bearings in the game. And then after that, enemies spawn more frequently. So if CD is greater than 0, we're going to decrease it. Otherwise, we want to spawn an enemy. So the first thing is CD equals cooldown. And we want to, first we want to get a position that we want to spawn at. So we have a vector3 position equals, we're going to make a new vector3. And here we're going to do something a bit interesting. So we're going to have, we know that the X position is always going to be right here at 5, an X position of 5. No matter what we're doing here, it's X position of 5. The Y position is always going to be 1, just 1 unit up. But the Z position, we want to be able to randomly spawn between any of these tiles. So it's just going to be a random number between -2 and 2, including those numbers. So to do that, we have the position. So the X position is 5. The Y position is 1. And then we do a random range between -2 and 3. The reason we're doing 3 instead of 2 is because random range in Unity is inclusive for integers only for the very first one. It's exclusive for the second integer you input. So this is actually a number from -2 to 2. It doesn't include 3 in there. Okay? And so now we have a new position that we want, and we're going to instantiate we'll do another integer here so we don't have a really long thing, which is index, and that's going to equal a random range between 0 and the enemy's length. So if it's just 1, it'll just spawn the same enemy every time. But we're going to create enemy's index at position and with no particular custom rotation, just the standard rotation that it was saved as. Okay, so this, now we have a wave manager that will spawn enemies every cooldown seconds. This wave manager, we want the cooldown, we'll say 5 seconds, and the enemy, actually we'll do 3 seconds now, so we don't have to wait 10 seconds for that first one. There's only one enemy at the moment. We'll put that right in here. And we'll also remove this enemy. All right, let's see. This should count up, and we should get an enemy in a couple seconds. There we go. First enemy out. May not have enough money. Forgot to take a lot of beating. Right. Now that's smooth. 400 is way too much. I need sync. All right, so this works. Right, now we have waves that spawn. We can make more towers. Just kill all of the units, and we can't spawn on there. I spawn here and just right there. Yeah. Awesome. Now we're just killing all the boxes. So here's our basic system. We can make the enemies get harder as the number out goes up because we have that information here. Oh, num out. That's what I didn't do. I didn't increase a num out every time we create one. So all I have to do here is num out ++. Okay, so now we have information about how many enemies we've spawned, which can dictate difficulty of enemies. As we keep going, we can make enemies with, that move faster, that have increased resistance, and then custom scripts for other types of enemies. But we want, first, multiple types of towers. And we don't want enemies to give you the money. That would be too easy. We want you have to sacrifice some of your money to create towers to bring in more income. So what we'll do is we'll have this be tower shoot. And then we're going to make a new one. This tower is tower income. Okay. And this one, it doesn't have a shoot script. But it does have a income increase. And what that income increase script is going to do is simply give you money over some amount of time. So pretty simple to do this. All we have to do is do this cooldown again. We'll have four variables. The first will be a public cooldown, a private internal cooldown, a public money increase, we call that income, and then a private money script. Grab the money script at the top. We'll game logic. And like always, if CD is greater than 0, we're subtracting time delta time from it. Otherwise, we reset CD. And we add money to the money holder, like that. So this is this tower's, the income tower. And we'll say every 5 seconds we get 25 units of money. Pull that in here. In the main camera, we're going to increase this to size of 2. We'll have this, the regular tower cost 100, but this income tower only costs 50 to create. And every 5 seconds it gives you 25 money. So that's useful. And then we'll have the enemy. You can still get some money from it, but we're only going to give 5 per enemy. They're really not your income source. Okay, so now we have 2 towers, but we can only place the 1. So what we want to do is we want to create a couple buttons. So I'm going to create a button, just basic. I'm not going to do a custom, actually, no, I am going to do a custom image button, because I got a bunch of these little icons for the different type of towers. We are probably not going to make 5 different types of towers. We may make 3 towers. Okay, so let's add a texture in here. We will have this one be the income. We'll do a couple other things. Hello. What's going on with that? Okay. So now we have this button. We want to make it much smaller. Put it down here. And we're going to add a box collider to it. It should automatically be at the right size. So this will be our income tower. And then I'm going to make a new one of these, which is our shooting tower. And then I'll make one more of these, which is going to be our expensive tower. the income tower, that one. The shooting tower will be this red one, and then our expensive tower will be this one there. Okay. So all of these are going to have the exact same script, just with different numbers set to them. So this, we'll have this be call it a tower button. And UI comes with a really nice function called onClick, but you could program your own as well. I'm going to use onClick since it's simple. I have to spend time doing more input positions, but you would use it in the exact same way that we did putting down towers, where you transform your points into your screen point into a world point if you had a custom special button that was in world space, or you could use Unity's GUI and just do the on-click, their on-click. So we'll have this. Just an on-click. And we don't need update function. This isn't going to do nothing every frame. We'll have integer, which is the index number, and a set tower script, which comes from the camera, so we can modify it. So we'll get this set script. Actually, it's public, so we don't even need the start function. We'll just drag and drop into here. So on click, we want set script selected to equal index. That's all we have to do to set this up. So we'll put these on each one. The main camera has the set script, and so income tower, the shoot tower is index of 0, income tower is index of 1, and then the expensive tower is the index of 2. And then in here, for now, I'm going to, so I do need a third type of tower, but I'm not going to change the income yet until we make sure that this works. Okay, so the tower income, we want to be able to easily tell the difference between them. So I'm going to create a new material, income tower, make it blue. Fine. What color did I actually grab? There we go. All right. So this is the income tower. Works. Let me apply that. All right. Now, what should happen is this should make a blue. When I click this. Oh no. Okay. There we go. Oh, I didn't have money because I made it expensive. I made it 100. I made it cost 100 instead of just 50. I'm not going to have nearly enough money to kill all these guys. But I'll have enough money to make one more. All right, so that works. Now, there is no, nothing happens when these guys reach the end. And that'll be one of the last things we do is if one of your towers gets killed, or if your house gets hit, then you lose. And they're also not stopping in front of the towers, so we'll need to fix that as well once we do a little bit more. So now what we want to do, so now we have these towers that work. We'll make one more type of tower. Let's see. We'll have we'll grab this tower chute, call this tower expensive. And it's going to shoot, but it's going to shoot much faster. Actually, no. It'll shoot slower, but it's going to get a new projectile and new material. We'll make it red. And it's going to get, a new projectile. Call this here projectile 2. That's going to be much faster and do 50 damage. It's going to do a bunch of damage. But it's also going to be very expensive to make. So we'll take tower expensive, projectile 2, remove both of these. And then here we're going to have element 2 is going to cost 250. And create our tower expensive. The income tower wasn't giving us enough. I'm going to make this 2 seconds so we can just see, grab some money real quick, and get rolling. So we make 2 of these. Now we're going to get a bunch of money. Shoot some of these guys. Get another tower. Soon I'll have enough money for an expensive tower. Here we go. And you can see it's shooting that out. Now we're getting a bunch of money all the time. Way too much for how much we should be doing, but that's okay. This works. Still running at crazy high frames per second as long as I don't keep the statistics button open, going at 500 plus maybe frames per second. But we're using fairly simple geometry to do all this, but the scripts are not taking much time at all. All right, now what we want to do is we want a couple more AI types. So let's grab him. We'll have 2 others. The first one, I'll just call him enemy fast. And then this one I'll call enemy strong. The enemy strong is going to have 300 health. Enemy fast is just, he's going to have 75 health, but he's also going to move fast. The movement speed is 0.65. We'll see if that is reasonable. And then we want 2 more materials for fast. We'll say he can be yellow. And then strong. And he will be green. Something ridiculous. Okay, so fast and strong. Get these in here. Remove them. And this is in the wave manager. So it's in here, and we have now a 3 enemy array. We can get any of these. So let's see how this works. First thing, I want to kill the first one easily. Okay, so I don't think I'm going to be able to win this. I'm going to need some more time before they start coming out. So we'll have this game logic. I'm going to open up the wave manager and pull out a new variable, make a new variable. So here's a public. This is the initial pause. So this is just a multiplier effect. So I'm going to have the initial pause be 4. So I can throw out some of my I can get a bit of an infrastructure going before everything starts to overwhelm me. So I'm going to put out my moneymaker here. Got 3 of those. Now I can start to build things as soon as they start to come out. I'm actually going to get all of these guys in here. That was an easy one. I need a hard one here. Shoot. Don't have enough money for this. Oh no. All right, so you can see that this now works. Oh, that's gonna. So this works pretty well. We had more different types of enemies and a couple more towers, and this would be pretty good. What we want to do now is make sure that the enemies stop when they're in front of something and do damage to them. So what I'll do now is modify the movement for the objects, for the enemies, because they are going to have a little bit different type of movement. We're going to make their movement a bit smarter. So before we had, this is as simple movement as you can get, really. It's just going forward continually. Now we want to say that we're only going to go forward if there's not a tower directly in front of us. So what we're going to do is if physics raycast from our position a vector 3 left and direct of a distance 2. It's pretty simple. If that's not the case, that is the case, then we're going to do something else. Otherwise, we're going to move. I should not do any of this. What am I doing? We want to raycast hit. Because we are interested in what gets hit. So do this, and then out hit. If our hit tag is equal to tower, then we're going to do some damage to it. Otherwise, if it's equal to house, then we lose. So here, lose game. Here, we want to do damage. So we're going to grab a health script. We're going to grab the health script from the hit object, and we're going to need to do damage to it. And now here, we're at a bit of a problem that this is the enemy movement script, and we may not want to be doing damage to it. So instead of doing this, I'm going to have a Boolean of can move. And I'm going to cut this all out. I've copied it, so I have it again to paste. But I want to do the damage in front of us in a different script so that the enemy movement is really just movement. And now the do damage script is going to stop us from moving. It's going to set can move to false if there's something in front of us. So I'm going to make a new script. And here, we're going to do this update function so that this script does the damage while, and we're going to have a variable enemy movement so that we can toggle this Boolean variable on and off to allow it to move and not. So right here, let me put this first in the update function. Now I have this raycast set up here. That's all good. And we want a private enemy move. And we also want public damage that we're going to be doing to the enemy that we're in front of. So if there's something in front of us, we want to stop. However, we have another little problem in that the towers are on a layer that ignores raycasting. So there's a little problem with that. That can be solved. Yeah, that can be solved. So if we have something in front of us, the projectiles are always going to never be used for raycasts. Then we're going to have the move script dot can move is false. Otherwise, now we don't want to be setting things in other scripts every time, so we only want to reset the move scripts can move if it's false right now. Then we set it to true. So this will just get passed over unless it's false. So this will only get called if we've already been stopped and now we're allowed to move again. Okay. So we're going to do our damage. And this losing game functionality will be changed a little later. So the problem is that this raycast isn't going to hit a tower right now because the towers are on a layer that ignores raycast. So I'm going to pull them back to the default layer. Doesn't really matter where they are as long as they can get hit by raycast. And instead, now, if by doing this, they block each other. So only the frontmost tower will be able to shoot, will see the zombie to shoot at it. But we can fix that real quick by going into the physics settings and making the default. I'm actually going to give them a new layer, a new specific layer that is just for towers. So these are all on the towers layer. Now, if I go into physics, I can toggle off tower physics interactions, the tower's layer physics interactions with each other. So I removed the ability for towers to see each other because they never have to. The bullets that they're shooting at will never have to interact. They can still, we can use other things to grab towers around them if we want a healing tower or something. It'll just require a little bit more in-depth programming to do that, where we have a subset object to grab all the towers around it. But by doing this, we'll check real quick, make sure that this still works. I'm going to wait till I see the first enemy and make sure that two things can spawn. The enemies can move toggled off by default. That's part of that Boolean variable start as false. But I don't think I saw the bullets shooting through each other. No, I think it's just, yeah. It's still not, they're not allowed to shoot through each other. So we may have to do something else to determine whether or not there's a tower within the range. So that, what this physics setting did is it stops collision, but it may not stop raycasting. So we'll toggle that back on, pull the towers back into a non-raycast, ignoring raycast. And we may have to do something different to determine whether or not there is a tower directly in front of them. So to do that, we can do a spherical cast to grab everything around it and determine if there's a sphere within it or not. That might be the easiest way to do this. So instead of checking forward with the enemy damage, we want to do a game object array of inside I don't know what. I don't know off the top of my head what the function is to grab everything around it. It is overlap sphere. So I'm just going to comment this out real quick and do a different type of check. So I'm just going to iterate through all of the objects that are inside this array of objects that are in the physics overlap sphere. If there's a tower, then we want to grab that, except for instead of this, it's like that. We're going to remove some health, and script is false. Otherwise, there's no towers. The script's true. We can do the house later as well, but let's make sure that this works. Make sure that raycasting doesn't include this physics overlap sphere. Oh. So we will see real quick by putting a income tower right in front of it. See, that stops it. Nope. They have it on. No, they don't. Enemy damage. Not on any of these guys. The actual damage number isn't super important right now. We just want to make sure that it stops. If it stops, then it'll be doing damage, but we also need to make sure that there's a cooldown. So we'll have to wait again next time. I'll just throw an enemy down there. Okay. Oops. We're going to get the component of enemy move. Forgot to do that before. I'm going to just grab an enemy and just do that. Grab an enemy and put him in here so we don't have to wait each time we do that. Let's see. Stops. No, I think the physics overlap sphere counts as a raycast. So for the ignoring of the raycasts. So to fix this, there are a few things we can try. To do that, then it really means that these towers can't be ignoring raycasts. They need to be in their own little layer. And what we could do would be a chain. We can do two things. We can have a chain system set up so that if the tower in front of it has an enemy sighted, then you have an enemy sighted, and that will kind of create a domino effect backwards to let all of them know that there's an enemy in front. That's one way to do it. Or we can have each lane have a variable. I think the easiest way to do this would be to do a chain. So when I go back, sphere casting is much more processor intensive than just doing a single raycast because you're getting all the tiles and the enemies around you, whereas a raycast just returns a single object each time. So I'm going to remove this and pull this back. And then in the enemy shoot, or in the shoot script, we're going to have to put a little bit more information in this. So first we want to create a public boolean has enemy. We're going to take this outside of the cooldown system because now we want this to be updated every frame. So if CD is less than or equal to 0, then we're going to do this cooldown thing and shoot the projectile. But no matter what, we're going to say has enemy equals true. Otherwise, has enemy equal false. And if there's nothing in front of it, has enemy is also false. Now, up in here, we want to also ask if the hit tag is a tower. If it's a tower, then we want to look inside it. I'm not entirely sure what you mean by the particles don't get destroyed when they collide with the towers. The projectiles right now aren't the important part in this. The projectiles won't ever have a raycast in front of them. What the main problem right now is that if you have two towers stacked up, then the tower in the rear, when it tries a raycast, it gets stopped immediately by the tower right in front of it. And so then it stops trying to check if there's enemies in front of it. So with this, I will grab hit. I'm going to get a shoot. And that's going to be equal to the hit game object. Game object. Oh, I just gave component. Actually, hit component. Shoot. If scripts dot has enemy, then has enemy true. So we want to do this if the hit tag is enemy or has enemy. If we have an enemy, then we want to shoot. So this will get called once, and then if nothing else changes, this may just be a redundancy check, but it'll probably work. All right, now when we try this, I'm gonna do a couple things. Okay, these towers are tagged correctly, right? Tower, tower, tower. Enemy damage, or yeah, enemy damage is asking for capital tower. That spear cast may not have even been a problem. Okay. Regardless, we've already done a bit of programming in here. So we do these. The first thing we want to check to see is, will the enemy stop? Let's see. All right. It does. Way too soon. And now both of these shoot correctly, just like they're supposed to. The enemies spawn. They stop in front and start doing damage way before they should. That's like a whole unit in front. So I'm going to change the tower, this radius piece to 0.75. Oops. That should be what we want. All right. Have to put an F there. All right, so now we have towers that get created. Grab some income towers. Oops. Oh, that was a terrible mistake. Grab an income tower, put 2 of them there. That'll make us some money. See if they stop in the right place now. That's better. I can even make it a little bit closer. I'll put it at 0.6. And then we also want our enemies to do some damage. So they're all going to have the same damage. That's fine. We want, let's say, 20 damage. And right now, the enemies don't have a cooldown thing. So we're going to do the exact same thing we usually do. Cooldown, and then an internal. And we have here if less than or equal to 0, then we do some damage. And set CB equal to cooldown. Just like it should be. All right. We'll do one last test. Put a couple there. See if it does any damage to this tower. Ooh. Okay. Really not not having much of a cooldown at all. Oh, that's because they don't have a cooldown. We'll have them do some damage every second. Seems right. Try again. All right. doing damage. Oh, shoot. This one may be a little difficult. Okay, so now here we have a little bit of a problem. That this one, it's not turning the has enemy off when it checks. So here we want to go look at the shoot. So it's moving back correctly, where we'll just walk through this. If it hits an enemy, we're the very frontmost person. We're the frontmost tower. We set has enemy to true. Otherwise, we're setting it to false because we skip over here because we haven't touched a tower because we're the number one. If we do tag a tower, we grab its shoot function, and if they have an enemy, then we have an enemy. Otherwise, that should be false. If we touch nothing, then we also don't have an enemy. So let's just do a quick check in here. To make sure that it's not toggling on and off all the time and just showing that it's on. So we want to make sure that it's getting toggled at all. Okay, so there we go. So if we've never seen an enemy before, it is getting correctly shown that we don't have an enemy. Otherwise, we've never gone back to that point. So we want to check anybody see any blaring mistakes in my code? Ah, this. If we have an enemy, then it's true. So it will never get turned back off. So we want to remove that. We don't want to remove that. We want to remove this check here. Outside this raycast, we can do this. Or where's this raycast ends? Right there. If we have an enemy, then we'll do this part in here. Sorry. All right. Now this should work correctly. Hopefully they'll all stop when that guy dies. Awesome. All right, now that works. And that one killed the income. And stop at the house. So if we get a enemy AI that stops the house, then we've lost the game. And so what we want to do is we want to reset everything like last time. This income cooldown is too short. I'm going to have it at 3.5 seconds. So it makes it a little bit more interesting. Now we get this enemy damage. If we have hit here, we're going to have a separate function for losing the game. Actually, we're going to have a separate script for losing the game. And we're going to put it in the game logic. So the first thing we want to do is in the enemy damage. What we're going to do is we're going to access the script and toggle on the variable that says we lost the game. Then in the lose game script, we're going to do all the resets for everything. I'm not sure what happened with that. So here in this lose damage, we want to grab we can just grab game object, find game logic. Open up the lose game script and add that variable for lost. Start as false, so we don't have to do anything in here. Here, what we want to do, we're going to have a private money script. And then we're going to have a couple private we're going to want to take the initial amount of money that we have at the start of the game so that we can reset that. And that may be all. Oh, and we also want a private wave manager so that we can reset the number of enemies spawn once we're done, once we lose. So mscript is game object. And wave script is game object. And those scripts are both on this object, so we can just grab them right from here. Don't even have to go find the object. And then we want to set the initial money equal to the money scripts.money. If we lost, then we're going to reset lost. We're going to make sure that mscript.money is equal to initial money. And before that, just to make sure that nothing else has happened, we're going to do 2 for loops. We're going to have 2 game object arrays. One is towers, is game object, find objects with tag tower. The other game object is enemies, and that's a game object, objects with tag, enemy. We're going to iterate through both of those. And destroy all the towers. And we're going to also destroy all the enemies. And I'm doing the destruction before resetting the money because that income might add some money in the meantime because the updates are all happening simultaneously. So we could get very unlucky and get added income right before the tower gets destroyed. All right, so now we've destroyed all the enemies and all the towers. And then the last thing we want to do is we want to make sure that we iterate. We need one more game object array, and this is for the tiles. Because we need to make sure that all the tile scripts are reset so that none of them are shown as taken. So we want a new tile taken. And all we have to do is reset the Boolean variable because as soon as the game object gets destroyed, the tower that was linked to it gets set to null. So all we have to do is make sure that tscript dot is taken equals false. So we're allowed to play something again next game. All right. I think that's everything that needs to be reset when you lose the game. We'll make sure, real quick, I'll just create a row of income pieces and let one of them break through. And the most necessary part is to make sure that once this wins, this isn't tagged as house. There we go. No, none of those things got. That was a weird way to do it. Let me make sure tag tile is not defined. Oh. Oops. So we want to do that, and I'll do that one for when I go through the projectiles. We want a new one. Now I need to create the tag projectile and attach and make sure that all the projectiles have that tag. So these two need to be tagged as projectile. Okay, let's see. Maybe this will work now. Hopefully it will. And we need to make sure that everything gets destroyed, as well as we're allowed to place towers on the right. Did I not save? Of course I didn't save that. Add the house tag. I don't like that. I can't modify anything be modified during runtime gets reset as soon as you stop playing. So let's make our towers. Now the house is tagged. Okay. Okay, so it did reset. I'm allowed to place on all those pieces, but the money didn't reset. And I also have to reset the cooldown. That doesn't make sense. It shouldn't be allowed to go up higher than that. Oh, why did I do that? What? Okay, sorry. That should now work. The other thing I want to do is in the wave number. Oh, I pulled in that wave script thing. All right, so wave script num out is equal to 0, and wave script the wave script dot cd equals cooldown. I'm just going to create a little function reset. And this is now going to be in here. Okay. Yeah, these arrays aren't dynamic for C#. Yeah, not dynamic. And the reason behind that is speed. Dynamic arrays are much worse on processing speed than static arrays. If I were using JavaScript arrays, I'm pretty sure are dynamic, but even Unity will warn you that they are slow and you shouldn't be using them, especially on mobile devices. JavaScript arrays are not the way to go if you want to do speed stuff. Because mobile, you have to take advantage of every little bit of performance you can squeeze out. All right, so now we have a nice little array for this. Oh, I might lose this one. Maybe not. I don't know. Yeah, very likely I'm going to lose this one. Oh, you're allowed to do that in Plants vs. Zombies anyway. Yeah, I'm going to lose. So you can lose. You can lose. Reset the money. Awesome. I'm going to lose again because that fast one. Dang it. Ooh, that was close. I'm going to lose this one too. Okay. So that works. Well, I may give the game logic a bit more between, let's say, 4.5 seconds between enemy spawns. But this initial pause is going to go down to 3.5. So it's a little bit more balanced. All right. So that is a nice Plants vs. Zombies, the start to a Plants vs. Zombies clone. We got enemies coming up and down this path. You can spawn 3 different types of towers. Each one will subtract a certain amount of money from you. And you can lose by letting the zombies reach your house. So I think that's about it. Is there anything else? No? I think that's pretty good. All right, so thanks everybody for watching, and I'll see you guys the next time I do one of these.